Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining. We've had quite a few people register, but people, of course, can watch it later. We will record it. We're going to really try and demystify our microcredential offering. We do offer a number of other courses. I know actually that Tracy, who's on the call now, has already finished one of our courses. So welcome to you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Mel and I work on the courses together. I'm the unit coordinator, so you'll see me a lot in the content itself. But we have a special guest, so I'm welcoming Rachel, who's joining us because Rachel is a past participant in the microcredential. So we've asked her to join us today because no matter what I tell you, she can give you the real story of what it's like to do the course whilst you're also doing a million other things. Like most adults, that we've got lots going on, and I know Rachel is also one of the busiest people around, so I could also say that she passed with flying colours, so it can be done, and Rachel's going to help us demystify that. But I'm going to hand over to Mel. Mel's going to kind of handle your questions and moderate how we're going to go today, but anyone who's on the call is welcome to ask a question. You can put it in the chat. You can raise your little electronic hand if you want. And I've also got the questions that people have pre-submitted. So I'll hand over to you, Mel, and you shepherd Rachel and I through whatever you want to ask us.
Okay, so for starters, I'd actually like to ask you what the course is about, like what it entails.
So you mean like what the content, right?
Yeah, the content of what you would expect to sort of be looking at while you're doing the course.
So really the content is pitched at people who've never studied international relations before, but find themselves, usually for professional reasons, really exposed to the kind of geopolitics of the day. So I think I used to say, you know, international relations is everyone's business, but it's not everyone's background. So we find people who, you know, maybe in their work lives are really in an environment where they need to know a bit more about ASEAN, or a bit more about AUKUS, or a bit more about, you know, supply chains, or a bit more about diversification, and really just want something quick and fairly contained to get them up to speed so they can cover these kind of topics at work. So it's really the current day international relations. Having said that, we do know that at the moment things are very volatile. So the course is not meant to cover the news, but it gives you the foundational understanding of how Australia operates in the region.
Great. So Rachel, when you started to do the course, looked at it, was this along the lines of why you wanted to do the course, or?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give context for everyone here. So I've been working in the WA defence sector for about the past 10 years, and I've had a lot of experience working either for prime contractors, SMEs, startup companies, and in the last few years I've been consulting as a specialty. And I saw obviously this had that integration with the Indo-Pacific region, and I wanted to come in and actually start building on my knowledge and expertise beyond part of the Australian, you know, domestic relations. And all of the course content I saw from Perth, US Asia was really in line with that, allowing me to sort of go beyond my foundational knowledge and understand some of these elements in a bit more detail. And I thought it was really valuable in terms of the way the content was delivered, that it helped me actually learn and retain information. And almost comically coming into this course, I think you sort of self-assess your knowledge base in this area. And I came in feeling fairly confident. I can't remember, I gave myself a 6 or 7 out of 10 in terms of knowledge. By the time I got to the end of the course, I would have rated my before knowledge as about a 3 out of 10. And it was just so valuable to be able to work through that.
Awesome.
Yeah. So with the course, Lisa, it's 8 weeks fully online.
Yep.
So how does it actually work? Like what would you be looking at each week?
Look, this is one of the big things everybody asks, right? How am I going to get this done? So in a practical sense, and I think, Craig, you also asked this question when you registered for the session, every Monday morning some new class content is released. And I do that so it just gives you a bit of a rhythm to it, and it's not all available on the first day. But you do not have to do that at any particular time. Some people do it when it's released. Some people wait till the weekend. Some people do a bit and then a bit more and a bit more, a bit every night. Some people, let's all be honest, get very excited about the first week And then weeks 2 and 3, they forget it's there. And then week 4, they come scrambling back and go, oh, I've got to catch up. All of those models are completely fine. We're all adults. The material is made available to you. You work through it at your own pace across the 8 weeks. At the end of the 8 weeks, I've chucked on another 2 weeks for people to catch up. So even if by the end of the 8 weeks, you're still halfway through session 2 or session 3, that's still doable. It's still okay. You can watch the videos, look at the podcast, look at the articles, look at the YouTube clips and the media clips as and when you want. So when people say there's, how do I do it? There's no set class time. It's released in the morning. You do it when you want to do it. As long as you get it all done by the end of essentially the 8 weeks plus the 2 weeks grace I give you, that's fine. There's no marks for doing it. Oh, you didn't do it on time or did it late. It doesn't matter. As long as you can do it and pass the quiz, that's all I care about. So a lot of people are worried. I make the assumption that everyone doing this course is working. Full-time, part-time, remote, FIFO, balancing family, got commitments. But if you've got an internet connection, you can make it work and just do it bit by bit. Is that what you wanted to know? Yeah.
No, I was just going to also ask Rachel's how she went with it from her point of view, with her busy lifestyle and everything. Were you one that caught up or just?
I reckon in the beginning I probably followed something very similar to what Lisa's saying there, but I was chomping at the bit when the releases were coming out every week because I thoroughly enjoyed the content as it was released. But as you say, I think I was running my own business at the time and I've got a bunch of other commitments that I needed to keep hold to. But I really found it was good that every week, if I couldn't get to it when it opened, I could obviously just jump on when I had free time. So it was really flexible in that regard. And then I recall as well, there were actually some live sessions we held, and I thought they were fantastic. They were good motivators because I wanted to make sure I had read the content before the live dialogue came in, because all the participants were sharing their takes and views on what had been discussed. And I always wanted to make sure that I could participate in them. But even they were fantastic that I recall they were recorded too. So in an instance where if I missed one, I could jump back in and listen to that as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we do actually in week 3 and week 7 have online tutorials where you get a chance to either ask beforehand or at the time. But also, Lisa, we do, as well as online, is there other ways that they interact within?
Yeah. So I figure lots of us have engaged in some kind of online learning before, right? And I've really done my best to make sure you can stay motivated and there's no great long things that take 40 minutes to get through. So all of my videos and even all of the readings, none of them take longer than 6 or 7 minutes. What I've done is made it very short episodes. So you watch a video, you might read an article, you might look in your glossary, you might go and watch something on ABC News, you might come back and watch another video. So you can stop and start it however you like. Then what I'm asking people to do is you do a bit of an applied bit of case study, which again, I will provide you with something to look at. That could be a documentary. It could be a minister's speech. It could be something, something very contemporary. And then the participants often write in the discussion boards. And again, people get a bit worried about this. I'm not looking for the right answers. I'm just looking for people's reactions. So we might be looking at something to do with tariffs, and that's a bit, got to get your head around free trade agreements and how tariffs kind of function and why some countries have them and why others are trying to get rid of them. But then I might ask you to go and look at a speech by someone, or even look at an infographic explaining a free trade agreement. And I might ask you to say, can you think about how this might apply in your sector? So you might write something in the discussion board about working in education or working in mining and everything in between. So then everybody can see each other's kind of responses. And there's no real wrong answer there. So can you see what I mean? I'm not going right in here about, write me a summary of this free trade agreement. It's all applied stuff. So hopefully, that's what I want, for people to think about how some of these sometimes abstract concepts really apply to their world. So that's how people interact. As Rachel said, in week 3 and week 7, we do something like this. I think they're on a Wednesday or a Thursday. They are completely optional, but I invite some experts from our centre to come along, and they sort of talk about what's happening in the world right now. And then people can ask questions about the course content. What do you think Macron meant by that? Or, you ask about stuff like that. But again, it's optional. It does help cement your knowledge, and it's recorded so people can watch them later.
Okay, so that's the discussion boards. Yeah. And as you said, it's not a marked thing. How is the course assessed?
Very straightforward. There's no writing. You just need to pass the quiz at the end, and it is a multiple choice quiz, and you have 2 attempts. Does that sound right, Rachel? Is it 2 attempts? I say that because sometimes people have, any kind of technical or other reason. I can just give them more attempts. If you've done the course, you will pass the quiz. If you've looked at the resources, you will pass the quiz. I have checked the quiz against ChatGPT, and it can't pass it on its own, so you have got to give it a bit of a go. But what you also get with the course is a workbook. So we've consolidated the glossary, all the handouts, all the PDFs into a book, and that's an open book test, so you can actually use your workbook when you're doing the quiz. So all that way along, you're consuming the content as best you can, learning new things, commenting in the discussion boards, and come week 8, the quiz is made live. And once you pass that, which you will, as everyone gets very hand-wringing about it, can I do it? Can I do it? Yes, you can do it. And then you've passed, and you get your accreditation.
Yeah, and I did it, so you'll all be fine. But as Lisa says, they were really good to work with as well. And I just took the quiz as an optional part of the learning as well. So if I had questions after as I went through the quiz as well, I could go and expand my knowledge, still look at the resources and talk to the team too. So it was a very good system.
Thanks, Rachel. And there's practice quizzes every week, just going, look, here's a bit of a practice every week. There's just 3 or 4 questions just to say this is the style of question. And so you just get your eye in on multiple choice questions. So lots of practice before you get there.
Lisa, can I just confirm? So it's pretty much the same as the masterclass. It'll just have a little bit more interaction with the board that you were talking about, sort of thing.
Yes, that's right, Tracy. That's the main difference. That is the main difference. Yeah, so you've already got exposure to. You remember each session starts with the narrated slides, the animations, and then you go through the videos. So this is bigger and longer and has the interactivity on the discussion boards. That's right, Tracy.
Thank you.
You'll recognise it. That's our style, if you like. Yeah.
Perfect.
And I can't remember if it was mentioned before, but even though it goes an 8-week course, there was the 2 weeks extra at the end where you get to revise what you've done and that sort of thing as well.
And there's no judgment. I have seen it all. I've seen it all. It's okay. I understand. I've had members of parliament do our course and all sorts of CEOs who end up emailing me halfway through week 8 going, I haven't really done much yet. Can I get through it? And we're just very reassuring that, well, you better crack on. But yes, of course, you can do it.
Excellent. So, Rachel, I know that you've completed and you said before that you enjoy, but why would you actually do the course, looking at others that haven't done this sort of thing before? What would you say was the best thing?
Oh, motivational. This is your motivational moment.
I know, this is it, people. But I mean, a couple of things. I mean, in terms of affordability for myself, the course for the content was so well priced. So I jumped straight on it. But I mean, I enjoyed it that much. It's a course I'd do again. So all of the learnings and knowledge I got, Lisa mentioned before that you get a wealth of resources, and they are documents from my narrow lens of only having looked at Australian defence, sort of warfare and industrial strategies here. I wasn't looking at what was a much broader spectrum of capability around national security and the impacts of other cultures and regions in that. And in my course as well, we had international students participating as well. And it was so valuable seeing their perspectives on the discussion boards. And there was this really polite discourse as well when you put commentaries in there around conversations on different perceptions of how something came across, whether it was things about tariffs for particular countries, free trade agreements, some of the strategies that were coming out. And there was this element as well, and whilst it's not about the live geopolitical environment, there was a lot of content that made me look at what was happening around the world for things I wasn't paying attention to. So presidential elections in countries that I hadn't been following, understanding some of the upcoming middle and superpowers that could be evolving in the future. And it just really evolved my thinking. And I think it's just one of those things, if you're open to learning, you get so much information, not just from the course content, but from engaging with the other participants as well. So if you go and do the course, I'd highly encourage you to participate in the discussion boards. I've got many resources which weren't even just a part of the course itself, but that all the participants were sharing as well, that I still reference now. And I think, that kind of longevity of a course, and again, that price point, I was like, why wouldn't you do it? And Lisa, I might still come bug you and jump in again, because there's just so much you learn from engaging with the different groups. I can't see why you wouldn't do it if you're in this sort of national security, humanities, international dialogue. It was extremely valuable for me.
Thanks, Rachel. And I think you're touching on there, lots of people in the course say they didn't know what they didn't know. It just sort of opens your mind to the sort of more breadth. Lots of people like Rachel, I'm in defence, or I might be in trade, or I might work in a particular sector. And this aims to kind of give you that breadth of knowledge in a really accessible way. You can hear, it's quite accessible. Obviously the worst thing for me would that it would be boring, or that it would be, I want people to also be interested in it. You can hear that, like, people from the centre are interested in this stuff, and there's so much to think about and understand, that I want it to be kind of exciting, if you like, not just like, oh, let me take you back 100 years and talk about something that doesn't feel relevant. So that's how we've tried to design it, for sure.
Excellent. Actually, Rachel did mention the cost involved, and
yes,
so what were we?
$450 plus GST. Yeah.
And also a certificate, and
so it's backed by UWA. So we go through all of their credentials process to make sure it's a rigorous curriculum and I'm assessing the right things. So you do get a UWA student number. You will be a UWA student while you do the course. And then you get a certificate of completion and an e-certificate and a record on equals. So it's a proper rigorous thing that we're doing. The university is very interested in professional education and making sure that people who have professional lives still have access to good quality, timely and relevant education. So that's certainly our lane. But people are very pleased to get the certificates. It's quite interesting. You see a lot of grown-up people being very proud of themselves when they're showing the certificates. I like that bit. I love it, I love that at the end. And I run a alumni group on LinkedIn where lots of people kind of continue chatting and sharing stuff that's going on, and you just kind of stay in the loop with the centre, especially if you're in Perth. But we do have people from all over the world doing the course that stay in touch and do other courses or come to events. So there's certainly benefits afterwards as well.
Great. I would like to see if anybody's got any questions at the moment on anything that we may have not covered.
Anything we haven't covered?
I have a question. Lisa, you did touch on it just before, but do you bring real life case examples into the course? So what's happening now as opposed to last year when the course was running, or?
Yeah, you're right. So this will be the 6th time we've run it. And so the core concepts in the class content that comes out every week are the foundational ideas, and there lots of, look at these videos that our experts have made and do some reading. But the case studies and tasks that I get people to do are all super up to date. So you can imagine it's a bit of a movable feast, because we're signing free trade agreements here, and we're doing tariffs over here, or we've signed a security pact with you, and then what's happening over here. So I keep those very much more up to date. I use media content. I'll ask people to just go and watch something. I think we use a couple of documentaries. There might be an ABC Four Corners episode, that type of thing. And then I use that to bring in and really ask people to go, well, how do you think these concepts of, Australia being a member of all these organisations play out when you look at it in this way? So that's how people get their, real fix of current day application.
And Yasmin, sorry, Yasmin did you still have a question, Yasmin? Sorry. No.
She's still there, but she's put her hand down. So maybe that was her question too. Anyone else got any questions? We know it so well. We kind of, oh yeah, sorry, Yasmin. Yasmin's having a horrible time. She hasn't even got Darlington standard internet.
No.
Oh, goodness me. Where can she be? Although, having said that, we have people all over the world do it. A lot of, just last round we had the ABC producer in Tasmania do it, and we had someone in the Australian embassy in the Netherlands doing it. So we have, people in all sorts of places. Obviously, quite a few people in WA and on the East Coast. Do you think we've covered
Yasmin's joining as well? I could add on that too about the current information as well. I think Gordon was a big part of the course when I did it too. So if you're asking him questions, he won't stop talking too. So he's got a wealth of information too. Yes. But he was brilliant about keeping us up to date with live happenings around the world. And like I said, I think that was one of the great things about it, was that he was pointing me in directions that I wouldn't have considered before. So even like at the time, the administration was still being I think we're still in election phase maybe when I did the actual course, but definitely taking his perspectives on it, but also the other things that it impacted and the history around, well, when this person was last in administration, these are the things that changed and impacted these different types of agreements. Really valuable knowledge that they were able to share. And I think that's good to be able to keep up with that and have someone getting you to think a bit differently about the implications of the changes around the globe.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. We get a lot of feedback that people say once you've gone through the first 2 or 3 weeks, all of a sudden international relations is everywhere, and all of a sudden you're like, oh God, you sort of start reading deeper into the news and like even little news articles. So it's all a bit, now I know what that really means, or now when Penny Wong says that, I think I know what she's really saying, which is exactly the point of the course, right? When she's never out of the news at the moment. And it seems like every news bulletin has something to do with sort of our relationships with other countries. So once you start to get your head around some of these topics, you start to think very differently. And then we get a lot of questions about, what's really happening between different nations. And we try and cover those best we can in the tutorials.
What sort of backgrounds do people have when they come into this? Are they like engineering, policy?
All sorts of things, Craig. So we have people, we have people in state, federal and local government. So lots of people who find themselves in those roles have got international touch points. People negotiating education partnerships have all of a sudden gone, I don't have any clue about the government's priorities about ASEAN. How am I supposed to fold them into my, policy? We do get a lot of people in the private sector. So people in, obviously, minerals and resources and mining, people very interested in agreements and kind of content around critical minerals. But you also get people definitely in education as well. So we've had all sorts of people in the education department and teachers doing it. People in agriculture are very interested. People, I guess, from a kind of import-export kind of way. Trying to think, there's almost no, I'd say about a third are from government, a third are from some kind of business, big, little or otherwise, and a third are doing other kind of things. So that's kind of our balance. And people have got all sorts of reasons for doing it. It's nearly always related to their job. I want to be better at my job, get a different job, move around in my job kind of thing. A few people just do it literally for fun, I guess. And then, like Rachel said, I get people to rate their knowledge on the way in, and I've highly, pleased that people do that. Quite often on the way out, not to prejudice anyone who might enroll this round, their score hasn't often gone up very much. So I always laugh that my stats on this course look horrendous because it looks like I'm not doing anything. But people are going, I knew I was a 7 out of 10 on the bit I knew, and now the bit is this big. And I rate myself a 5. So I'll just have to live with those numbers, won't I? It's not, I don't live in a world where I can claim this amazing boost in people's knowledge, but I'll get over it. It's fine. Does
Little
that
goalpost
answer your
changing.
question, Craig? Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
That's right. All right. I think everyone would have our email address from various bits of registration and other things. So we're here if you have any questions. We are a very small team, so I promise that if you have trouble with your tech or your enrollment or your payment or your getting into the platform, you will in 100% of the cases be dealing with Melinda, like that's her who on the other end of that email. And then you deal with me in terms of the course content and the discussion boards and the tutorials. There's not some bank of other people running this course. It is us, and then our experts. So
it's the UWA systems that you're using then, like the LMS. All that
Craig,
stuff.
you already seem to know my biggest challenge in life.
The challenge too.
We will tell you once you're in, it's okay, but the journey to get in, you'll have lots of flashbacks to university years when you think, what is happening here? But yeah, they know it's a problem. It seems to be be prepared to be engaged with some slightly unusual admin processes. But Mel will be watching you all along and she'll just force it through and we'll get you in there. It's not, I don't know why it's so difficult, but it is.
We have our ways.
All right. Well, if you don't have any more questions, thank you, Mel, for shepherding us through this. And thank you so much, Rachel. It's always nice to see you. And it does happen that people who've done the course, and I think more than 500 people have done it now, quite often people come up to me at an event, or it happened to Gordon once when he was walking down the street in London and someone came up to him and said, I've just finished your course. So we're enjoying meeting people after the course and staying in touch. And hopefully that's a testament to how useful it is and how engaged people feel in it, that they feel that we stay, part of the same community.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for you all having me as well. And if anyone wants to chat with me about their experience too, let me know. And I'm also happy if you hunt me down on LinkedIn, but much the same. Lisa and Kate and Gordon and the whole team, still connect with them. And I still connect with people that were participants in the course as well.
Well, hopefully we'll see some names. The course is yet obviously open for registrations. We kick off on the 10th. So, a few more days to get things sorted, but we might see some names on the list. I hope we do. Thanks, everyone. Back to your lives. Back to your normal lives.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yasmin.